What is up, y'all? Welcome back to Scotty Holiday 2. My name is Scotty Holiday. I'm a queer creator and a huge Star Wars nerd, so if you're into either one of those things, please consider subscribing to my channel. The first 3 episodes of Andor are finally out on Disney+, and I have to say, this show seems like it's going to be amazing. It's definitely different than any of the other Star Wars shows we've seen so far, but that's not a bad thing. Like Rogue One, Andor has just enough familiarity mixed with so much new, and I'm so here for it. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the first 3 episodes. Before we get started, please make sure to like the video and leave a comment letting me know if you stayed up late to watch the episodes when they dropped on Disney+. I'm going to be putting out weekly reviews for each new episode of Andor, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Now let's get into this review. Episode 1 of Andor drops us right into the action as Cassian arrives on the planet Morlana One in the corporate zone as he heads to a brothel in search of his sister. I have to say, I love that we're seeing a brothel in Star Wars, and like so many people have been saying, sex exists in Star Wars, confirmed. The bartender at this establishment is also iconic. I love their design as well. Cassian exchanges some words with 2 other patrons at the brothel who turn out to be guards of the Preox Morlana corporate security group. After they attempt to rough him up, Cassian ends up killing one of them in self-defense and the other out of necessity. This first sequence definitely sets the tone for what the show is all about and what's to come. We travel to Ferrix and meet B2 EMO and get our first look at Cassian's early life with his sister on Kenari via flashback. In these beginning scenes, we also see a ship crash land across the water from Cassian's village, and I'm very curious as to why the village is made up of children and there's no adults to be seen. I thought the choice to have them speak in a language other than Basic was cool, and the fact that there's no subtitles, it really immerses you into the universe and leaves things up to interpretation. Speaking of Basic, I'm not sure how I feel about B2 speaking Galactic Basic rather than the usual droid beeps and boops we're used to, but I think I like it. It helps give him so much more of a personality, and I love that he has a stutter, showing that he's had some wear and tear over the years. Right off the bat, we learn from the conversation with Cassian that he's been sneaking around a lot lately, and as the episode goes along, we come across multiple different people who Cassian's borrowed money from or received favors from, and it felt very Han Solo of him. I love how he tells B2 to make a lie for him. I really like the overall design of Ferrix, and seeing the everyday life of citizens on the planet, it really does have that lived-in feel, which I'm so happy to see, and it's a rare thing that we really never get to see in Star Wars, and I'm so glad we're going to get to see more of the everyday citizens in the Star Wars galaxy in this show. Another new character we meet in this first episode is Bix. I really like her so far, and I'm very curious what her relationship to Luthen Rael is. He was her contact after all. Her and Cassian also share a moment, and I definitely noticed some sexual tension.
It makes me feel uncomfortable.
I'm curious if we'll see that explored more in the future, especially now that her boyfriend is dead. Maarva, Cassian's adoptive mother, is also another new character we meet. I loved the moment in the second episode when Cassian comes home and she's just sitting there in her chair waiting to confront him about what he's done. We've all been there before. I also loved the scene in the second episode where she goes into Cassian's room and has a moment with the staff he had when she found him on Kenari. I love her line, "That's what a reckoning sounds like. You want it to stop, but it just keeps coming. It's when it stops, that's when you really want to start to fret." And how that line pairs with the repetitive banging heard around the city, building suspense and anticipation for what exactly will happen when the banging stops. Another scene of hers that I loved was at the end of episode 3 where she's sitting on Cassian's bed after the Corpo group leaves. The close-up shot of her crying and then the pan out to see Cassian's room torn apart, it was really heartbreaking. I'm sad he never got to tell her goodbye before leaving with Luthen at the end of the episode. The last thing he said to her was that he was sorry via B2. We don't learn a lot about her in these first 3 episodes, but from them, we can tell she cares a lot about Cassian and definitely treats him as her own. It seems like a lot of the people on Ferrix see her as a mother figure as well. A crowd even begins to form outside her home once the Corpo group arrives and begins questioning her and searching through her home. I feel kind of torn about her taking him from his planet though. She states that the Republic would kill him since his people murdered a Republic officer, saying it'll be open season here the moment that frigate lands, and that by taking him, she was saving his life. But she also literally took him from his home and his sister. It's really interesting to see her paint the Republic in this light. I hope we get to see more of her backstory and what exactly she was doing on Kenari in the wreckage of the Republic ship. Another group we meet is the Preox Morlana corporate security group on Morlana One, and are introduced to Kyle Solar's character, Syril Karn. Syril seems to be a very prim, proper, and by-the-book person. He's very no-nonsense and takes his job very seriously, but once he's taken out of his element, he completely loses it all, which we eventually see in episode 3. I wish I didn't, but I think he's kind of hot. Especially when he's all roughed up at the end of the episode. I mean, did y'all see him at the Andor premiere though?
Are you an angel?
The corporate security group reminded me a lot of the police, and I think the parallels were done on purpose. They let things slip by at times and crack down at others. They're even willing to sweep things under the rug in order to make sure they're seen in a good light, which we see when Syril goes to report on the dead officers. A line that stood out to me was from Sergeant Mosk to Syril. He says, "Shit." Just kidding. He says, best way to keep the blade sharp is to use it, which is something we see in the real world with police brutality. Once they arrive on Ferrix, they literally tear Maarva's home apart and are very rough with her, using intimidation tactics. Like, she's literally an old woman who uses a cane to walk. As they continue their search throughout the city for Cassian, we get to see how incompetent and trigger happy they really are. I love how the people of Ferrix don't trust this security group and literally go around town banging on pieces of metal to alert the other citizens of their presence. You know something is up when the people can't even trust a group that is supposed to be there to protect them. Something else I picked up on was that there were no alien species among their ranks, which fits right in with the Empire looking down on non-humans and treating them as lesser people. So far, I kind of hate the corporate security group, but it's one of those you love to hate them situations, and I have to also point out their main ship that they fly to Ferrix in is so ugly. But I feel like that's fitting. It's very gaudy and I feel like they're very over the top. I never thought I would say this, but it was also really refreshing to not see stormtroopers in these first 3 episodes as well, especially given the era that this series takes place. The last new character I wanted to talk about is Luthen Rael. So far, I really like him, though I'm still unsure of his true nature and where his allegiances really lie. He's very resourceful and obviously of some higher status based on his ship alone. I'm curious how he knows so much about Cassian as well. He's obviously got connections all around the galaxy. There's also some fun Easter eggs I noticed that I wanted to point out as well. I'm sure there's a ton that I missed, but these are 2 that stood out to me during my first watch. The first was the mention of the planet Wabani in Andor Episode 1. This planet first appeared in Rogue One, and the name Wabani is also an anagram of Obi-Wan. The second Easter egg I noticed is the cutter near the mine on Kenari. The design of the cutter looks very similar to the kind shown in Jedi Fallen Order at the Imperial mining facility on Kashyyyk. In the final scenes of the 3rd episode, I loved all the different shots of our new characters coming to terms with everything that's transpired. It's been such a short time with them, but I already feel so invested. I really hope Cassian keeps his word and returns to Ferrix at some point in the series as well. So far, I think my only complaint is the super raw sounding drums at the end of episode 2. I can't lie, it did take me out of the episode a little bit, and it reminded me of the beginning seasons of the Clone Wars series, where they would start playing rock or drum and bass music during the battle scenes, but other than that, the music was great. I really liked the episodes overall, and I can't wait to explore more with these characters in this series. I can't believe we haven't even touched on Mon Mothma, the Empire, and the politics going on inside the galaxy. We're in for a crazy ride, and I am so excited to get more of this series. So what did you think of the first 3 episodes of Andor? Who was your favorite new character, aside from B2EMO? Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter so we can chat more about it. Once again, I'm going to be putting out weekly reviews for each new episode of Andor as they come out, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Please make sure to like the video and consider subscribing to my channel for more Star Wars content. To keep up with my latest updates, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. The links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.